Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories, and over the weekend, we heard some unsavory news from the Bawku area. Police and military personnel moved in to bring the situation under control following rising tensions in Bawku and its environs in an unending chieftaincy dispute that is now costing lives and leading to the loss of property. Well, let's get into the issue as we actually bring into the conversation Dr. Victor Doki. He's a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We'll also be hearing from the spokesperson for the Bawku Naba. But let's start with Dr. Doki. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I am very well. It's good to have you join the conversation. Let's start from the top. How much have you garnered as far as this situation is concerned by way of information, and what do you make of it? What are you processing in your mind on the back of these developments?
Right. Thank you very much. So, with regards to the first question, I think I have spoken to very reliable sources with regards to the situation. One, the Set Seydu, who sometime back last year, February, was, inducted as the Bawku Naba far away in Naralegu by the king of the Mapuga Kingdom. Now, he is in Bawku, and that has sparked this violence, armed confrontation between the two sides, the Mapusi and the Kusasi. Now, the other information I gather is there's a big disappointment with regards to the security apparatus in the area, the military, the police, who are disappointed that this incident has occurred. So it means that most of what happened occurred on their blind side. There was no information as to what exactly went on. For this Set Seydu has been brought in. Now, what I also know is that
just to clarify, Dr. Doki, you say it's a big disappointment on the part of the police?
Yes, for the security services there. That's what I gathered. That they are disappointed. One, that this Set Seydu, with regards to the issue about litigation and then the arrest warrant, and then how he has been brought in to the area, which is already volatile and now has escalated tensions.
So you're talking you're talking about the other chief who supposedly had been skinned,
yes.
And then there was an uproar. Then he had to be kept outside of the area, and now he's been, so to speak, smuggled back in. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly. And this has, caused the recurrence of armed violence we are experiencing now. And for what I process with regards to this, sometime back, I think I was speaking to one of your sister stations, and I made it very emphatically clear that this said gentleman should not be allowed to come into Bawku. Otherwise, we're going to have confrontations. And this is exactly what is happening. So we would going to have or experience these confrontations until the Set Seydu, if he is in Bawku, is out of that area. You will not have the Kusasis comfortable for a rival chief, so to speak, in the same jurisdiction. Then this is what we are going to experience if it is not kept down going to December. And there are a lot of scenarios I'm playing in my mind now, which I'll come to it. Scenario one, what is going to happen when a state of emergency is declared in Bawku?
You know what, Dr. Doki, before you get into the scenarios, let me just bring this into the picture. Do you know the circumstances under which this person, Seydu, was brought back into the jurisdiction? We've heard a number of things unconfirmed, and so I cannot spew those here. But per what you have found out, do you know the circumstances under which purportedly he got back into Bawku and why that may have happened, knowing very well that it could spark what it has sparked now?
So what I know, also as you rightly said, and unconfirmed, is that this sort of, let me put it in quotes, operation of bringing Seydu back in Bawku was done undercover, done by very experienced people who knew the terrain, who knew the operations of the security apparatus and their modus operandi in Bawku area. And that is how come this operation or activity went on undetected, smooth and finalized. And this is what we are experiencing for what has happened.
Was this, per your information, was this conducted by civilians or the security services?
Now, honestly speaking, from what I gathered, this was a mix of civilians and some security apparatus. But whether they are from the state security or not, that is what I have to reconfirm.
I see. You can go ahead to your 3 points now.
So, scenario one, we are going to likely have a state of emergency declared in Bawku because obviously the curfews aren't doing any good. And when that happens, scenario two will play out, being that once there's a state of an emergency in Bawku, we are trying to get Saidu out for peace to prevail, for calm to be restored. And then what will happen going to December 7th? Are the people of Bawku going to be disenfranchised because of the tensions there? If Saidu is out by then we're going to have elections in Bawku. If not, then you are sure to say or conclude or project that elections in Bawku may not come up because of the tensions in there.
And that in itself could lead to a further escalation there, wouldn't it?
It would lead to
if the people feel
escalation.
Disenfranchised.
Exactly. Now you're looking at who benefits from this chaos and who doesn't. Okay? And the perception we have is the Upper East or Bawku itself, the Kusasis are aligned to the NDC. Majority of them are aligned to the NDC, and the majority of the Makusis are aligned to the NPP. So technically, you would realize and come to conclusions that the NDC may not benefit if a state of emergency is declared in Bawku.
I see. Looking at all these dynamics, however, how much of it could have been prevented? You talk about the fact that per information you're getting from the grapevine, it could have been a mix of security personnel. We don't know whether it was official security personnel and civilians mixed, getting Saidu back into the jurisdiction. This has been an issue that we've looked at, knowing the tensions in the area. But what security lapses would you attribute to this happening? Because we all knew that once this happened, there will be repercussions, and now we're there, we are facing them.
Exactly. So what I take from the security lapses is, number one, there is a big gap, big challenge with regards to intelligence. Now, if Saidu was out of Bawku until now, I'm sure and certain that he must have been monitored. His movements must have been monitored by the intelligence bureaus and the security services. Now, how come if he wasn't, right? How come the security services lost track of Saidu for him to come to Bawku? Okay. That's the one big failure. In intelligence, there wasn't enough intelligence, and that caused this kind of situation. Number two, if you have the military and the police, okay, enforcing curfews, okay, periodically going on patrols, who have taken authority over areas of confrontation between these two sides, then you are rest assured that they will know the flashpoints of engagement, and they would quickly, okay, once hearing that Saidu is in town, take positions in those areas. And that didn't happen.
I see.
Number three, with regards to how much we are going to look at spending in Bawku, and already we know about some 6 million that is being gone into peace building mechanisms, approaches in Bawku. Okay, so there are a lot of questions. Are there people benefiting? Are stakeholders benefiting from this chaos in Bawku?
Those are the questions in there to be looked at. Please hold for me, Dr. Doki. Let me also bring in Maxwell Agambila. He's a lawyer and he speaks for the Bawku Naba. Mr. Agambila, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Agbambila, not Agambila.
Agbambila. Well, my apologies. There's Agambila as well.
Thank
so
you.
I guess I mixed it up.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Agbambila. What is the reaction? What is the thinking of the Bawku Naba on the back of these developments? How did he feel when he heard that supposedly Seidu was back in town?
Well, good morning once again. The Bawku Naba obviously is saddened by the chaos in Bawku, and more so the loss of innocent lives from both sides. And we think that this is completely avoidable. This ought not to have happened. But if you look at the trajectory of events that led to the return of Mr. Abagre to Bawku, you would see that it is either somebody is complicit or somebody is benefiting from this unfortunate loss of life and limbs. Otherwise, an arrest warrant was placed on his head. His lawyers went to court to try to get it rescinded or revoked. At the High Court, they were not successful. The Attorney General was represented by lawyers. They saw clearly what the arguments of the man were. Then they appealed to the Court of Appeal in Kumasi. We are told that the Attorney General didn't even put in a response. So the Court of Appeal had no choice but to revoke the arrest warrant. I personally went to see the Attorney General himself about it. What we were told is that they had appealed the ruling of the Court of Appeal in part. Then a day or two later, we are told that they are passing their. And between those hours when we were trying to make sense of why they are suddenly passing that, we were told that they do have to into town and carried himself up as the chief sitting in state, and there was a lot of drumming and dancing there.
Do you know the circumstances under which Seidu got back into town? Do you know who brought him back into town?
Sorry?
Do you know the circumstances under which Seidu got back into Bawku? Do you know who brought him into Bawku?
I cannot say for sure, but given the situation in Bawku, it is obvious that he did get some sort of security protection in order to get into Bawku. It's very obvious. I don't want to engage in conjecture and TSC, but from our side, we are very sure that he did get some security protection getting into Bawku. And that's so unfortunate. I mean, you cannot lose a single life because one man says he wants to be a chief. I have graphic images and videos of people who are being killed like animals because one person says he wants to be chief. And the whole republic is sitting there and just looking on whilst we slaughter each other. It's not fair.
But
the Attorney General could have simply reissued another arrest warrant, even if the court revoked it. They didn't do that. They abandoned the appeal.
Are you blaming the Attorney General for this?
Of course, he should take some of the slack. Because I told him, look, even when he mounted the appeal, I took the view that, look, I concede your legal prowess. If you appeal, you are just going to demonstrate that the Court of Appeal judges erred. In the meantime, we are trying to save life and limb. So it's a simple procedure. Issue another warrant. I don't know who he took instructions from. I don't know the legal basis for the abandonment of the appeal. What I do know is that as we speak, a minimum of 15 people have lost their lives. And the place is still volatile.
And of course, this is a situation.
One man. Have been paramount chief of the traditional area for 40 good years.
Got what?
Say again.
You say he lost what?
I'm saying that for my information, we have currently lost a minimum of 15 people in Bawku.
15?
And some are being slaughtered in Wale.
I see.
And this ought not to have happened because of an individual. And I was trying to make the point that, look, the Zuguran Bawku Naba has been paramount chief of the Bawku area for 40 years. If anybody thinks that he ought not to be the proper chief of Bawku, there are state institutions to go to. to make your case. How do you sit there and have power to skin, but you don't have power to deskin? If you have power to skin a chief of Bawku, you should have power to remove the one who is there. And you ignore all of that and plunge all of us into this chaos. And government is looking on whilst we tear each other apart, whilst we slaughter each other.
Okay, so let me just let me just
no-go area because they are stopping buses in Wale Wale, inspecting ID cards. And if they find that you are a Kusasi man, they slaughter you. I have videos. I can share them with you.
All right. So I mean, you say government is just looking on, but we know the police. There's a joint police and military, intervention in Bawku. Right before you take leave of us, there was also that roadblock that was mounted on the Bolga Wale Wale Tamale stretch, which also led to some incidents, cars being stopped, people, losing their lives and all that. I have Dr. Victor Doki on the line who says that maybe one of the actions would be a state of emergency. What would be your reaction to that if a state of emergency is declared?
It will be unfortunate because in my very humble but firm view, a state of emergency ought not to be declared in the Bawku area because of one man. We all know where the problem is coming from. Let's deal with it.
Okay.
There is a legitimate chief of Bawku. Seydou Abagre is an imposter. He ought not to allow people to be losing their lives because he wants to be a chief. He is sitting in Bawku, cutting himself out as a chief. And it's full of incensing people. We ought to the problem. Let's deal with it. I beg.
Okay.
It's not a question of state of emergency.
Maxwell.
We know where the problem is.
All right. Maxwell, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Maxwell Agbambila speaks for the Bawku Naba. Let me just let those of you watching know that we also attempted speaking to the other side. We've not been successful thus far. That is why you may not have heard that we have spoken to the Seydou side or the others on the other side. Of course, these would be the Kusasis. And then on the other side, we'll be talking about the Mamprusis. So it's not intentional. We're just trying to get, and if we do get a representative from that end to speak to, we shall bring the person into the conversation. Dr. Doki, you have the final word. Having heard from what you've seen, the visuals, the intel, and now from what you've heard from Maxwell Agbambila, who speaks for the Bawku Naba, what would be your parting shots, your parting words?
Well, I would say, number one, for us to have calm in Bawku, state security should try, I use the word try, because it would have oppositions to take Seydou out of that area.
Right.
Until that is done, we are sure, we won't have any kind of calm restored because the Kusasi will not like it that the so-called rival chief is there, okay, competing with the Bawku Naba currently, who is a Kusasi. Number two, let's get the Interior Minister, the National Security couple, to issue a statement and come out, issue a statement. Now, what with regards to litigation, I heard the lawyer saying that you reissue an arrest warrant. Let the litigation process also be reenacted and then get this gentleman out of the area. Now, lastly, what I would say is we should have security forces in vital areas, as mentioned in Wale Wale and other areas, okay, to counter these illegal roadblocks or checkpoints that have been put up, okay, by these guys, and then maiming innocent citizens. Let's deal with those ones and then now come back to the negotiation table and then iron out the necessary issues with regards to who is the rightful owner of the Bawku skin.
Dr. Doki, thank you so much for joining this conversation. That was Dr. Victor Doki. He's a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We also had Maxwell Agbambila, a lawyer who speaks for the Bawku Naba. Like I mentioned, we extended a hand. We tried to hear from the Mamprusi end as well, because there's always, there are always two sides to look at when it comes to these conversations. And as and when we do, we shall bring that person into a future conversation as well. Stay with us, though. We still have a lot coming your way. There's the latest Afro Barometer release or report on trust corruption ahead of election 2024. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more action. you.